Hello team, and welcome back to another episode of the Happy to Health podcast of myself, Danny Williams, Ben Lewis and Dan Hancock. Now, today's guest is a really, first of all, good friend of mine, but he's also got so much value to provide to every single listener who shows up to this episode. He's my good friend, Greg O'Shea. He's Love Island winner, but more than that, he's a presenter, he's a rugby player, went to the Olympics. So much about this guy, and he's got so much value and so much knowledge to share on this episode. So I hope you enjoy it. Strap yourselves in, relax, and yeah, hope you enjoy.
Hi everyone, Ben here. When Dan, Danny and I started this podcast, one of our goals was to normalise the conversation around thoughts, feelings and emotions, basically anything related to our mental health. In the future, we hope that we can make mental health support more accessible to our listeners, which is why I'm delighted to say that today's episode is sponsored by Mindler, the online therapy app. Mindler makes accessing therapy easy, as appointments are all carried out online via video calls with psychologists. If you're struggling with your mental health or just need someone to talk to, why not give Mindler a go? You can choose which psychologist you'd like to speak to and see their bio, photo and specialities before you book. Mindler is offering all Happy to Health listeners one free session. Just use the code Happy to Health, that's HAPPY, the number 2, HEALTH. To find out more, go to mindler.co.uk.
Hello guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Happy to Health podcast. I'm here with Ben and Dan and a really special guest today. It's none other than my good friend, Greg O'Shea. He's a reality TV star, presenter and an Olympian. For our people watching the recording, you can see the famous shirt behind him. Looking forward to hearing from that. But Greg, welcome to the Happy to Health podcast. It's great to have you on. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. Great to chat to you again, Danny. You're just back from Texas. You had a good time, you did?
Oh, it was brilliant. I had a great time. Thank you very much. Yeah. A little bit jet lagged, but yeah, I had a great time.
Yeah, it looked class. I was very jealous. I'm sitting here back in Dublin now. It's like, I'm back in Danny getting travel the world. But no, I'm good, man. Good.
Yeah, very fortunate. It was a great trip. So yeah. So for our listeners who don't know much about Greg, Greg, can you tell us a bit about yourself, about your journey? What kind of things are going on in your life right now? Exciting projects? Yeah. I'm sure you've got loads to spill, so let's hear it.
Jeez, that's a big question. Man, since the villa, my life's just been mad. But same with you, Danny. Like, geez, it's just been all over the place. It's been great. But another side of that is that I came home after Love Island to try and go to the Olympics. So I kind of kept my life the same way, just with all the madness happening around it. And thank God it all paid off. And I actually did get to Tokyo Olympics last summer. Otherwise, I would have looked like an idiot with egg on my face, turning my back on all the Love Island stuff. So it all kind of worked out in the end. And I'm in a really good place at the moment where I'm doing a lot of presenting. I have a lot of brand work coming through. And actually tomorrow I'm launching my own fitness app. So I'm a bit nervous about it, but really excited. Yeah.
That is really exciting. Tell us a bit about this fitness app that's launching tomorrow. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. So the whole idea was I retired after the Olympics last year at 26, which is mad. I didn't want to retire, first of all. But the thing is, with sevens rugby, you get paid below minimum wage and you just can't stay in a full-time job that doesn't put food on the table. So I got out on top, and it was a good time to kind of close the chapter in that part of my life. And I was like, what am I going to do with my day? Like you know yourself, Danny, the brand deals are great and all that stuff, but like you need that kind of focus in your life. And I loved fitness, and I'd done, like every other influencer out there, I'd done the Instagram lives and YouTubes and all that stuff. And it kind of worked, and I kind of built a little community. So the whole idea is like, all right, let's try and make this an actual platform for people. So that's where it came about. And then I was completely naive at how much it takes to create an app, but we're finally here. We're finally here tomorrow. And the whole idea of it's called Better with Greg. So it is what it says in the tin. I don't want people to try and like reach this unattainable elite level of fitness or health, or like people, like I didn't call it Greg Fit for a reason, like, you know, because it's quite hard to get to that level. So I just want people to get a little bit better with me every day. But that's the issue now, is that every single live workout is with me. So I have to be there. You know what I mean? I just can't. I can't.
I'm to regret that, Greg.
That's yeah, I know, man. That's why I'm so nervous about it. I think, like, I can't, for instance, with a lot of other fitness apps, people just film like 50 workouts, upload it on an app, sell it to people, and then they go sit in Dubai and have a great time. Where I have to be there, like, every single day. But that's always going to be the beauty of it, and training with people. So I prefer training with people than by myself. So let's hopefully it goes well.
Can we just appreciate that Greg's created an app and we couldn't even log into Zoom?
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
I presume you can just blame the tech guy that's behind the camera here.
That's right, yeah. There's a full team behind that wall.
Yeah.
Greg, just taking it back a couple moments. Obviously, you've said you're retired from rugby now, but I want to take it back a couple of years to probably just after Love Island. And I wanted to talk to you about kind of staying focused on your mission. So you said a second ago, if it didn't work out, if you didn't end up going to the World Cup, you might have looked a bit silly. I personally think you'd have looked noble and very respectful going after what you've done. Given the risks, it might not have paid off. You still did what you wanted to do, use your authentic self, which I think is brilliant. For people listening, how can you advise people to kind of stay focused on their mission and on their goal? Because when motivation's there and the risk is low, it's easy to stay focused, right? But when things are potentially against you and you've got other distractions, brand deals going on, Love Island this and commercialism and that, how do you stay focused on your own mission and stay kind of true to who you are and make sure that you're doing the things that matter most to you?
Yeah. So after Love Island, you know yourself, but it was even kind of more crazy for me to walk away from all the brand deals and the commercial and all that stuff because I won the show. And it was just like, oh no, what am I going to do now? Do you know what I mean? I should probably move to London, take all the money, be the man. But like, there's such there's no longevity in that. Do you know what I mean? There's going to be another group of Love Islanders coming straight after us. And then I will want to turn my back on a career that I just worked for 10 years of my life with my best mates. And it was kind of like a happiness to money kind of balance. And I was like, I'm going to be so much happier if I go for the goals that I worked for the last couple of years. And it's much more of a sense of achievement having have gone to Olympics and worked for it and got there to the top of sport rather than, obviously Love Island was great. I went on a show, but like all we did, man, was sit around the villa and get tanned and like look at girls in bikinis. Like, you know, that's all we did. You know, so there's no work in that. So it's more of a sense of achievement. And yeah, my pockets aren't as full as they could have been, but I'm much happier in myself. So that's what kind of motivated me. And it was a massive risk, but it was a massive risk in order to feel fulfilled and be happy in myself. And thank God it paid off.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of comparing it to myself, and obviously we was on the same show. For me, it was a bit of a process realizing what you just said there. Pretty much, it's the almost, if you simplify it, money versus fulfillment and happiness, and trying to go after short term versus going after long term. And it was that kind of process I went through, and it took me several months, but maybe the best part of a year, to kind of get to that point where I could confidently say, I'm choosing the things that I'm passionate about and care about over potentially things that could be more extrinsically rewarding, if that makes sense. I'm curious to ask, how long was that process for you? Because it must have been even harder for you having won the show. You must have been even way more in the spotlight than me. Like, you must have had it way more difficult. Was it a longer process for you, or was it because instantly, no, I know what I love, rugby's for me, and this is what I'm going to follow?
Well, interestingly, actually, sorry, just to add on to the end, did that potentially cause that to happen? Because of, you know, you did win the show, you know, there's lots of cameras in your faces and that type of thing. Did that potentially then cause you to take the step back a little bit more?
Yeah, I think it kind of, we had the same decision to make, Danny. It was just with me, mine was so vivid and so in people's faces because I'd won the show and people expected me to move to London and be with Amber. And I remember specifically, I got out of the show on the 1st of August back into London, but I had training on the 26th of August. So I had to make my decision in those 2 weeks because the Irish rugby team were on to me being like, lad, you have to get back for training. If you're trying to go to the Olympics, you got to get back here. So my hand was forced. I was like, okay, what am I doing? And I just made the decision there and then. And it was hard because obviously I got eaten alive for not asking Amber to be my girlfriend and not moving over and doing the whole thing. But it was like, I just knew long term I was just going to be happier. So it was tough in one sense to turn away from it, but then again, I just knew what was right. And probably similar enough to you now, you've moved away from the lads in Essex and you're going back to Leeds because you know that's going to make you happier. You have to get in a house, you have to setting yourself up, and long term you're going to be happier. Like, not that you weren't unhappy with the lads, but you're looking long term. So that's the kind of same mindset that I had.
Yeah, I just curious as well, and this is the last I'll talk about it because I don't actually like talking about Love Island that much, as you can probably guess. But kind of, do you think that was actually a key factor that you had to make a decision quickly? Do you think if you had an open window, you could decide as much as you want, or you could kind of stew and digest and whatever? Do you think your decision might have been different maybe, or do you think actually, you know, I knew what I was going to do, and the sooner that decision was made, the better? If that makes sense.
Yeah. I suppose I never really thought about it because I had to make the decision so quickly.
Yeah.
But I just think deep down that regardless, I always would have just gone back to what I was doing before the show and what meant more to me Now, what would have been ideal is if the whole Olympic things happened and now this summer, then I went into Love Island. That would have been perfect because I would have got the best of both worlds. But look, life doesn't. Yeah. Life doesn't work like that, and you're gonna have to make decisions sometimes. But like high risk, high reward. You know what I mean? And it paid off, and I just knew what route would make me happier. And it's tough. Like it wasn't easy. It was tough, but it's like anyone. You just got to make that decision and take the first step and just get it done.
Love that, mate.
Yeah. Appreciate it, bro.
So kind of the second big topic I want to talk to you about is confidence, right? So you're an athlete, you know all about confidence, how kind of underpinning it is to most people's success, whether it be in sport and exercise, whether it be in everyday life. And we've got a lot of listeners who might be going through issues of confidence. They might need a bit of tips and advice. You must have had times, I'm sure, especially in the press and the media, you said when everyone was coming for you about not getting with Amber. Seems ridiculous now looking back retrospectively. But there would have been times when perhaps your confidence might have been knocked, or you might have had to second guess yourself. I'd be fascinated to hear your take on how do you access your own confidence? Because it is something we can access. And how do you maintain it once you've got it in the face of, people hating or people maybe giving you a bit of stick? Do you have any tips and advice that our listeners could benefit from?
Confidence, yeah. In relation to a sporting sense, what always kept me confident when I was going out to compete on the rugby pitch was preparation. So that might not appeal to everyone because not everyone's a sports star, but when it came down to my sporting context, it was always knowing that I'd done the work in the gym, I'd done the running meters, I'd done the skills, and it was just going out and performing now. All the work was inside me. I'd put the miles in the legs. So that's what always gave me confidence on the rugby pitch. But in a life sense, when I'm starting to feel unconfident in myself, I'll get closer to my friends and my family because they are always the people that know how good you are, and they will big you up when they see you falling down a bit. So I kind of will take myself away from the public world and be close to my mates and my family. But then again, if I'm really struggling, I'll look back on what I've done previously. So like if I'm always like, oh Greg, you're not smart enough for this, I'll be like, hold on, you did a law degree and you've done like all this of like, oh yeah, you can do this. Or like if I'm struggling to like pick up a girl, I'll be like, oh, but remember before you got this girl. Do you know what I mean? I look back at my past, like you have done this before, Greg. You can do this. Back yourself, and it's just reminding yourself of what you've done in the past and knowing that you can do it. So just backing yourself all the time.
Yeah, and you mentioned there about there'll be certain scenarios where you still don't feel confident. So obviously that's great transparency. And for anyone listening who maybe has imposter syndrome or feels nervous in certain scenarios, to hear you say that, although you're an Olympian, you host and you present almost for a living now. To hear you say that is amazing. What sort of scenarios would you still say that you find yourself nervous in? What sort of things still make you worry that I think it's just be great for everyone listening to know that you're totally human. You still find yourself with sweaty palms, maybe worry about something.
Yeah. What really gets me in the last 2 years is trying like in a new industry. So like when presenting, for instance, I was just thrown into the deep end and I was freaking out, but it's just about giving it a crack and seeing how you get on. And I really enjoyed it because it gave me an adrenaline buzz and I ended up being half decent at it. Or even like creating content, like similar enough to Danny, creating content for online. I'm like freaking out because I'm like, oh, this isn't good enough. So many other people are better at editing, or maybe I haven't done this right. But the thing is, once you actually just give it a crack and try it and get it up there and you see people react well to it, then you're like, oh, maybe I can do this. And that's like anything. You just have to give it a go and you'll end up even better than you think. And if you're not that good, then you just don't do it again and you've tried it and you move on. But I think it's all, do you know what I mean? It's always about just trying it and not trying to be something that you're not. Like, so for instance, I knew that I wasn't going to be the guy that stood in front of the nightclub. So I never went and did that. Do you know what I mean? Or just different things like that. I didn't align myself with brands that I knew weren't going to align with me properly. And people then I think start to believe in you and it's like, oh, maybe he's not full of shit. You know what I mean? So it's just about taking the first step and also sticking to what you believe in and your passions and not trying to be something else.
Brilliant.
Nice. Yeah.
That's some great advice.
Yeah, definitely. So how important do you think failure is for you in terms of being able to learn from your mistakes? Is that something that's quite key for you to actually figure something out? If I fail, it's okay because I can grow, I can learn from it, I can push forward. Is that something that resonates with you?
Yeah, failure. You always hear from the top fellas, like you have to fail in order to succeed. But man, I hate I fucking hate losing. Like, do you know what I mean? I just, I
thought he was going to come out with some really philosophical
yeah.
answer. From all that, I was thinking, what book is he going to reference here, or what leader is he going to quote?
I know, I do. I hate losing. Like, so I just kind of use it as a motivation. To, like, when you lose and you fail, you're like, fuck, I don't like this feeling at all. This is not going to happen again. So I just use it as a motivation to go again. But like, failure is going to happen, man, no matter what. Like, there's loads of things that I've flopped on, and you just got to pick yourself up and go again. It's just a part of life. Like, but I do fucking hate losing.
That's the competitive rugby player.
Yeah,
I think that's pretty nice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So we've mentioned a couple of times about this sort of, you've made some tough decisions. Probably say that you're quite up for taking a risk. But it all kind of comes down to finding your true meaning and being, your most authentic self. So how important is it for you to be your most authentic self? And has that potentially been from other periods in your life where you haven't been yourself? So maybe, an act's been put on and it's led you to come to the conclusion that actually, you know what, I'm who I am. I'm just going to follow that. And it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks.
Yeah, I think I've always been pretty good at staying true to myself, as cliche as that sounds. Like, even when I went on Love Island, I kind of just did my own thing, and I ended up just working for the point in the show that I came in at. Even afterwards, I just really went back to what I was doing before. So I've always just felt, I think, even more like I need to be in my own world, around my own people, do my own thing in order to feel happy in myself. So I've always just gravitated towards that. But what I'd say, looking back now, I just came out of a long-term relationship that I was trying to convince myself that I was happy in, and I was only looking back now retrospectively, I was trying to be someone that I wasn't in order to make the relationship work, and I was low-key miserable, like, and I didn't even realize it until I got out of the relationship that I was like, oh my god, I have been so unhappy for the last I don't know how long. So that's probably been a big lesson for me recently, is that I stopped trying to make other people happy and just do your own thing, and eventually I think the universe will work out for you. You'll surround yourself with the right people. Like, so being authentic in both a working sense but also a life sense is very important.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And as well, you kind of touched on it before, I think when you're being your authentic self and you're staying true to who you are, it's probably a bit easier to say no to the things that don't really, the distractions, the nights out, the brand deals that aren't really relevant to you. If you're being your truest self, it's probably a bit easier to say no to those distractions because you're on your own little journey and you're on your own mission. Like, you're good. I think that's an important message.
Exactly. Yeah. And I do think the universe, it sounds very kind of wishy-washy, but I do think the universe works in a way that if you're staying true to yourself and you're saying no to the things that aren't aligned with you and your beliefs, it will come back around. Like, for instance, you've really stayed to what you believe in, Danny, and your fitness, and now you're with Alpha Elite and things like that. And like, that's really you. That's really on brand for you. You probably said no to loads of stuff that you could have said yes to. And like me,
one thing I think we've got in common, Greg, is that, and you can understand completely, is that, especially coming off a show of the magnitude of Love Island, is people think, it must be great having those opportunities, but also you have to say no to a lot if you're going to stay true to yourself and be your authentic self. You have to say no to a lot of stuff. And it took me a while, like I said, several months to kind of accept that and be okay with that, and see deals come in and say it's good money, but like, it's not me. And then now I'm at a point now where I work with like 4 or 5 brands max regularly, and these are the brands that I've been a fan of since I was literally like a kid. Like, you mentioned Outlet there, and it's like the owner of that brand, I followed him on YouTube since I was like 16. and I've just been on a brand trip with them, and it's like, you talk about the universe and you say it's wishy-washy, but I actually completely agree with you. I think it's very, very true. The universe does work in that kind of a way, in my opinion. So
100%. Another big example from our year would be Jordan Hames, and that he just fully went for fashion and he kind of stuck to himself. He's so quirky, and now look at him now. He's one of the biggest influencers in relation to what he absolutely loves. So I take a lot of inspiration from him as well. He just kind of was like, nah, that's not me, all that crap. I'm doing fashion, and it's worked out. So yeah, but you got to be patient with it. That's the other thing.
You got to be patient. And yes, and with Jordan, obviously I lived with him for the best part of 2 years, and that transition from being like a ex-Islander reality TV in the press regularly to deciding to go after what he really wanted, which was fashion. Like, I saw firsthand the first few months of that. He probably got a bit of backlash. People people being offended by the way he dressed, calling him like, homophobic comments, that kind of stuff. Like just people didn't understand that he was trying to do something different. And despite all that, staying true to himself, and now he's reaping the rewards. I think it's inspirational.
Yeah. And then I think to add on to that as well is, it's very hard to find what you're passionate about for some people. Like, you know what I mean? So obviously me and you've been lucky enough, we kind of know what we're into. And off the back of the show, we kind of stuck. I don't know if it's happened to you, but it happened to me. I stuck to what I believed in, and my following literally went like this. Like, do you know what I mean? I've lost over 700,000 followers and counting. I'm still losing like 1,000 a day, but my engagement has gone up, and I've built such a nice community, and I still have a community of 900,000 people that really care about me and my journey and what I'm doing. Where I had 1.7 million at one stage, but most of them didn't give an absolute shit what I was doing. Do you know what I mean? They just wanted to see me with my top off. So like it's first of all, finding your passion, being patient about finding your passion. You'll know what excites you, and then going for that. And if it doesn't make you that much money, but it might make you enough money to pay rent, eat, do you know what I mean? Be happy. And then you just build the community around you that makes you feel happy. Like, you don't need millions of followers if you have an engaged small following. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that's you've kind of actually answered the question that I was going to ask next. And we live in this influencer society now, and the second I turn on my phone, it will, the Instagram feed, it's people you can just tell they're probably crying out to be accepted to go on Love Island, have these opportunities, but they probably don't actually appreciate exactly what it's like. What would you say, what advice would you give to anyone listening who they might not even be aware of it just now, but it's maybe in that headset of, maybe chasing fame, thinking that's going to solve answers for them, chasing followers, thinking that's going to be solution. Coming from someone who, like you said, you've lost that following, you don't care. It actually strikes me like you're happy about that, because the people who are following you now are the people who really bought into you as a person. Do you have any advice for these people?
Yeah, well, you always hear, I wouldn't even say we're famous in any way from the back of the show. It's ever like D-list celebrities at one stage, but like, so you always
it's like being famous without any of the perks of being famous.
Yeah, exactly.
Like infamous.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're not famous for a talent, like, but you always hear from the people that make money that like it's not all about money, and when they get there, they end up being depressed. These guys be billionaires, but they're depressed. So it's all about, I think, creating relationships and a lifestyle that makes you happy, and then working out from there. Like, money is great, like, but if you've no one to share it with, and you don't have any mates, you don't have any family, like, what are you really doing? So I just think if your full focus is money and fame, that's a dangerous road to go down. So make sure you're not losing your friends and family along the way. That would be my one point.
What a brilliant answer. One last question from me, I think, before we go into the little challenge. So we've got a little challenge prepared for you, just to get your blood pressure raising a little bit.
Okay. First Olympian.
Yeah, you should have an edge on this, actually.
I'm expecting to win now.
Just going back to what you said briefly about kind of, finding yourself and what your true passions are and your true purpose. Me and you, I think we're quite lucky in that sense that I kind of was relatively self-aware for my age at the time. I wasn't where I am now, but at 21, I was relatively self-aware, knew what I liked when I was on that show. So when I came off it, I rather quickly knew what direction I wanted to go in, and same with yourself. But there are many people out there who aren't as fortunate as me and you, who are lost and who aren't very self-aware and might be chasing the wrong things. Do you have any kind of, is there anything you might have done in your own kind of journey, or any tips and advice you can share for people who are looking to find themselves and find their passions and purpose? Because once you've found that, I think life becomes a lot easier to navigate. And I found that because there was a period in my adolescent young adult life when I didn't really know myself, and I was going about my life behaving in a way which wasn't reflective of my true character. And now I can look back retrospectively and be like, wow, like, I'm glad I'm where I am now, but there was a point when I was acting out of sorts and I didn't know myself. And I went through a journey and a process to get out of that. And we speak about that on the podcast quite a lot, and, in person as well. And I'd love to hear from you if you had any similar kind of experience. I know you're not to rub it in, but you're a little bit older than me. I wonder if you went through a similar phase in your journey. Maybe it was recent, maybe it was when you was, a teenager, who knows? But I wonder if you had any advice for our listeners.
Yeah. No, it's a great question. Yeah. How much? I'm 26 now. What are you? 24?
Just turned 24. Yeah. I say just,
Oh,
it's not just
man.
anymore. I'm mid
It made me
24.
feel
Yeah.
really old.
We'll just not say anything. We'll just
Yeah. Do you know what's funny though? Like you said there at 21, you kind of figure out what you're doing and like you're in a good place now. I was similar enough to that. And we'll probably look back at this age now when we're 30 being like, oh, we really thought we had to figure out what we didn't.
Yeah.
But do you know what I mean?
That's true.
But yeah, I definitely have one. So I got stuck in this, I don't know if it's a kind of Irish mindset. It's probably similar in the UK, is that I had to go to university, get my degree, start a 9 to 5. That was what a lot of people do in Ireland. So I did that, got my law degree. I did Love Island. Then I came back and I was like, oh, I better still qualify as a lawyer because I have to do that. Do you know what I mean? That's what everyone says I have to do. So during the first year out of Love Island, I set the solicitor exams in Ireland, like famously some of the hardest exams you can sit in the world. And I was so miserable. Like I hated my life. I was doing like 12-hour days studying and I passed the exams, but I look back on it, I was like, why did I put myself through that when it didn't make me happy? I was doing it because society told me I had to do it. And like I got so bad mentally that I even had to like reach out and get professional help to help me fix my mental health because I got so bad because I was so miserable. I was doing something that I didn't want to do because I thought society wanted me to do it. So I literally just said to myself, I'm not going to do anything ever again that doesn't make me happy. But like, why? I don't need to do it. Like, do you know, who's making me do it? I'm not answering to a teacher anymore. Like, do you know what I mean? We're all men here. So that's what my kind of life is now. Like, I'm out of a relationship that I was making me unhappy. I'm presenting. I love presenting. I love fitness. I'm doing fitness now. I love the brands I'm aligned with. It all makes me happy. And I'm much happier now. But I had to go through a really, really dark stage of trying to please everyone else to realize that. So yeah, everyone kind of looks at me, same with you, Danny, probably, in that they're like, oh, you have it all figured out. You're so positive. And like, now, behind closed doors, man, there's a lot of kind of dark stuff going on as well. Everyone's trying to figure it out and do their own thing, you know?
Yeah, I can 100% relate to that. And thanks for sharing that first and foremost. And I think what's really powerful is, you know, some people go through a dark phase when they're maybe going through things that aren't socially acceptable, shall we say. You was actually doing a law degree and you passed the exams in the most spectacular fashion, given the fact your life was so busy, which is commendable to say the least. And even given that, it was still making you unhappy. So I think it speaks volumes about your character that you pulled yourself through that. And now you're at a place where you're focusing on the things that you really want to focus on. So
yeah, appreciate that, man. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks for that, Greg. And I think it's a really important point as well, is because we are obviously trying to normalize this conversation about mental health. And the first thing we say to everyone is everyone has mental health, you know, it's positive and poor. And for you to bring that up is really important because people need to understand that a lot of the time when people are struggling, it can be temporary and it can be circumstantial. And that is absolutely no way for me to suggest that I'm downplaying what anyone's going through. But people need to have that self-awareness to realize that a lot of the time, if they're stuck, there's so many things that they can still do about it. Yours was first and foremost identifying that you were unhappy and then going off and doing anything about it. Would you have any other tips if anyone's feeling, obviously, you know, this isn't mental health, like a professional advice, but would you have any other tips if anyone's maybe feeling a little bit lost, whether it's careers, whether it is taking part in sport, because as we know, performance pressures can lead to this as well. Is there any advice that you would give people to maybe identify if they're unhappy?
Yeah, it's funny you say that, man. I was of the old school traditional mindset, and it sounds really bad to say, but I thought people who went to therapy were weak. And I was like, oh, that's a weak thing to do. I was like, you shouldn't really be doing that, which is such a backwards, traditional, old male mindset. And it got to the stage where I was so bad that I was having such fucked up thoughts that I was like, I have to talk to someone. This is getting weird. Like, do you know what I mean? So I sucked up my own ego and reached out to a therapist. And it was one of the best things I've ever done because she obviously broke it all down and we figured out what was going on. And now I look back at as a really strong decision I made for myself. But like before that, I would have called myself weak, which is so bad. And then looking back at myself, it's actually really embarrassing. So what I'd say to someone is listen to your thoughts, accept them, and try and help your body. Like it could be like I relate it to like a physical injury, like, but it's just inside, you can't see it. You have to get that fixed. You go to a physio for a physical injury, you have to go see someone for a mental injury as well. So that'd be my first point. And my second point is if you're not exercising, you have to put it into your weekly schedule. Like, you know, it's like a non-negotiable for me. Like if the benefits of exercise, if you could put them in a pill form, you wouldn't be able to stock it on the shelves. They'd be sold out all over the world. Like it's just the physical, mental, everything benefits from exercise. So even if it's getting up and walking down the road and coming back, if you've just been on the couch for the last couple of months, that's perfect. If it's going doing a marathon because you're a fitness freak, that's perfect too. Like find your level, but you have to be getting out and getting exercise. And they'd be my two big takeaways.
Brilliant.
Wow.
Nice one. So I think we're going to be quite keen to put you through your paces now. But before we do, you mentioned the app. Obviously, you know, it comes across how passionate you are about overall health and promoting positive mental health and physical health. What's the goal? What's the vision for the app? Where do you see this going, and what impact do you want to have on people?
Yeah, so the kind of whole concept is around the name Better with Greg. So I just want people to have a place to go to get a little bit better. If like not everyone wants to go to the gym and sit under a 100 kg barbell, or they don't know what to do with the machines in the gym, they might want to be at home and train in the comfort of their own home. So that's what I'm appealing to that person. And it's all going to be stuff you can do at home. So it's all body weight, Pilates, HIIT, core. There's going to be light dumbbells if you have them at home, or resistance bands, things like that. All 20-30 minutes. So quick, fun, and with me. So that's it. I just want to create a little bit of community, and if I want to get 50 people to do it with me, that's still 50 people that are getting better with me. If it gets bigger than that, that'll be amazing as well. But the price point's only going to be $9.99 a month for unlimited access, so I'm not making a lot of money off this at all. I've completely undercut the market, but I'm really looking forward to it anyway and creating this community, and it should be a lot of fun.
Brilliant.
That's awesome. Can't wait for it. Honestly, it's going to be good.
Yeah, thanks very much, boys. Appreciate it.
No worries at all. Yeah, wishing you all the best of luck with it. Will we crack on with the
challenge?
The challenge, yeah.
Let's get the challenge out. Yeah.
Right.
So
we've just had Matt, who is a semi-professional footballer, and he is currently in the leaderboard. So it's that battle, rugby versus football. So we're going to see how this goes. Ben's going to run through some of the rules for you.
So with Happy to Health, our podcast name, our initials are H to H, which basically is head-to-head challenge we've created. And basically the challenge that we would like you to do, going up against everyone else that we've had on the podcast, is to hold a squat for 60 seconds and answer as many and answer as many quick fire questions as possible in that time. The more answer is basically going to be the score that puts you on the leaderboard.
Watch Greg's market share.
That's so funny. Okay, let me set up this so you can see me in a squat. So let me set up the laptop. Brilliant.
There we go.
So holding the squat.
I mean, he was going to be working out every day, so this should be fine, right?
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah, it should be fine. Yeah.
And he's an Olympian.
This is the preview.
Okay. Can you see me?
We can.
I'm sorry, I have so much stuff in my room here. Let me move this.
Room there.
All these packages. Okay.
Right. So
we're ready.
Quick fire questions. I will tell you when we are starting. Ben's going to ask questions. The score to beat is 20. But bear in mind, the people before that, I think the highest score, everyone across 13, the board was like, 12, 13 type stuff. So 20 is the score to beat. We're going to start. You ready, Greg?
What questions are general knowledge?
No, it's just something to get you quick on your feet. It can either be about yourself or just a simple, like cats or dogs type question.
Okay.
That makes sense, right? Some are dead simple, some get you to think about as well, but nothing that I'm sure you can't handle.
Okay, brilliant. Let's do it. I'm ready. I'm into a squat, so.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's go.
Describe yourself in 3 words.
Focused, thinker, positive.
What is your best failure?
Failure. Oh my God, what a question. I haven't failed it too much, man.
Answer
this challenge.
My biggest failure. When am I at my happiest? When I am with dogs.
Would you say you're an introvert or an extrovert?
Extrovert.
What is your favourite alcoholic beverage?
Gin and tonic.
What is the one thing you need to improve at?
Relaxing.
When was the last time you were drunk?
Did you hear me?
Oh, we've lost you there. Sorry.
I've stopped it. Carry on.
When are you most
productive? Can you hear me?
We can hear you now, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, go.
When are you most productive?
In the mornings.
who is your inspiration and why?
Kobe Bryant, because his work ethic was just ridiculous.
Time's up. Well done.
Oh,
We got there. So
that's good.
We're gonna check this. We're gonna check the scores. Ben.
No, I'd say it's like, I'd
Seven.
say it's under 10.
10 on the nose.
Oh, they were hard questions, man. Yeah.
I like how you gave
my
them a lot of thought, though. You was really thinking about them.
Yeah, nobody
Yeah,
else thought
yeah.
that much about them, so thank you for that.
There was no like cats and dogs. Like, what's your biggest failure? I had to like look within myself.
Yeah, we're going to come on to cats or dogs in 2 questions' time.
Okay, yeah. No, that's good crack. My legs are burning now. Love this.
Good man. So, Greg, listen, a massive thank you. I think my biggest takeaway from that is the honesty and the transparency. And I think so many people are going to be able to relate to this. And I think you're going to do an absolutely incredible job with everything moving forward. Where can people find you? And where can people, obviously the app's kind of launching over the course of the next couple of days or so. If anyone wants to join that or wants to find you, where can they go to do that?
Yeah, so my social channel is just Greg O'Shea. You'll find me, but the app is called Better with Greg, and it will be on the Apple App Store and the Android App Store 13th of January. So tomorrow, 9 a.m.
Brilliant. All the best for that.
Brilliant. Thanks, guys. Really love the chat.
Awesome, mate.
Greg, thanks for joining us, mate. It's been a pleasure.
Brilliant. Nice one. Thanks very much. Keep well now, guys.
Cheers, mate.
Good luck. Bye.
Wow. Okay, so that's a wrap on today's episode with Greg. It was even better than I was expecting. Like, that really just blew my mind. So much insight. He offered us so much. So, Greg, thank you. And guys, if you enjoyed that, please show some support. Go follow our Instagram at Happy to Health Podcast. If you can leave a review, that would be amazing. If you could share with a friend, it would mean the world. If you think anyone could benefit from this podcast, just share it with a friend. It could make a huge difference. But for now, see you in the next one.